One. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CSE Zoom Room. How's everybody doing? Hey, we're here today to make a PB&J sandwich. How about that? Are you ready for that? We're here with my buddies, Peach State Federal Credit Union, Elijah Parker, and Elijah has brought some of his favorite friends in the real estate finance industry. And you're going to learn today how to make the perfect, I want to say, real estate mortgage finance sandwich. These young folks here today are going to teach you the how-tos of making things happen as it relates to you buying your first home or buying another home. So all things real estate finance. So Elijah, I need you to come on in this Zoom room with me and tell us who you brought to this party that we're having today.
Awesome. Thank you, Deidre. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. And thank you to each of our presenters. I can't begin to tell you how proud and thankful I am to be a part of this team. So today we are going to break down the home buying and the home financing process. Having spent 20 years myself in the mortgage industry and finance, I know firsthand how daunting this process can be. And our goal is to break that process down and kind of walk you through introducing some of the, I'm going to walk you through it, and we're going to introduce some awesome people that you're likely to meet along the way. So without further ado, let's introduce the panel of experts and get this thing rolling. Today we have with us Cassie Kahili with REMAX Real Estate Center, Jim Dymick with Member First Mortgage, Shadante Butler with Federal Home Loan Bank, Karen Engel with Battlefield Title, and of course we've already met the fabulous Deidre Cox with CSE. And thank you again for all of you being here today. Cassie, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to you to get things rolling. As you being the real estate professional, most often you're the first person that a home buyer will come in contact with as they begin to embark on this journey. So Cassie, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Elijah. Hi, I'm Cassie Kahili. I'm your local real estate agent with REMAX Real Estate Center. We are located at 115 East Lafayette Square. I am licensed in Georgia and Tennessee. So if you're looking to buy, I can work with you to find the perfect home in any of the surrounding areas. I work with both buyers and sellers, helping to fulfill each real estate need that you have. As a buyer's agent, I work on behalf of the buyer, finding the right home to make for you and your family. Typically, a buyer meets the agent about 3 to 6 months before you're ready to buy. So at this time, you'll want to narrow down any of your needs. For example, if you need a home closer to your work, or if you need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath for a family of 3, those are some good examples to fit your needs. As a realtor, I get to know your likes and dislikes, the type of house that you want, the type of community that you prefer, if you have children or prefer them to be in a specific school zone. If they have any crime rates in the area, that's a good chance to look at those things while considering a house. We also look at the price range that you're at. We want to make sure it's something that you can afford. We're not going to find something that you can't afford and then get your heart set on something. We also want to guide you through that process of making an offer on a property. We want to help negotiate with any of the listing agents on your behalf and look at your best interests. I also complete all the legal work on your behalf, try to make it as smooth as possible. I provide several different references for home inspectors, mortgage lenders, homeowners insurance, and also home buyers warranties. I keep the purchase transaction moving forward and making things as simple as I can, keeping us on the road and the track to making sure we're keeping our focus narrowed down for you as a buyer. I also tend the final walkthrough on your behalf before you close. While at the closing table, I'll be right there by your side, so you're not alone. You won't have to worry about, oh, what's this question? Well, if you do have a question, I'm there to meet any of those answers and help you with that. So for a home that's classy, call Cassie at 423-779-8624. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jim Dymick. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks very much, Cassie. I appreciate the introduction there. So I appreciate the handover to us at Member First Mortgage. And just to kind of give everybody a heads up as to what Member First Mortgage is we are actually what is called a credit union service organization. And we are a standalone company, but we are actually owned by 12 leading credit unions across the country. And so our role is that we provide the mortgage services to credit unions and their members. We were founded in 2001. Our headquarters are in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but we have a local office here in Georgia, out in Kennesaw. We are licensed to originate loans in more than 40 states across the country. And, again, we're very thankful to be working with Peach State, which is one of the 150 credit union partners that we work with. And so what we do for them is we are the mortgage banker behind the scenes. And then Peach State actually has their loan officers that are dedicated to helping their membership. So, okay, so let's go ahead and click on the mortgage basics tab here real quick. And before I even talk about a little bit that, buying a home is a pretty serious thing. And, a lot of times people have a perception that it's all about just having a credit score. And although that is partially true, where it's mostly different within getting a mortgage versus, say, buying a car. When you get a car loan, a lot of times there's really not much documentation that the lender like Peach State might need. It's pretty much just a credit score and you're done. And so within the mortgage world, there's three things that we look at to determine whether or not the member has the ability to repay. And so it's going to be their credit profile. It's going to be their income, which is their pay stubs and their W-2s. And then it's going to be their assets, which is their down payment coming from their bank statements, or it can actually be gifted. But again, so with the mortgage basics though, what we're looking at is a payment's going to be consisting of principal and interest, the property taxes yearly divided by 12 per month, and then your homeowner's insurance, and that gives us what is called a principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And what's important to know about this is, and this is why it's really important to choose a good realtor partner, is that even though your mortgage payment is that PITI, if you're buying into a neighborhood that has an HOA or an association, that does not go into the mortgage payment itself that you get from us. However, that is used to calculate a debt to income ratio. So, and a good realtor partner like Cassie is going to let us know, it's like, hey, this HOA is this much per year. And but in any event, so that's a little bit about the mortgage basics there. And then, there is, click back on that just for a second, if you would. One thing I would talk about, there is two different types of insurance. There is the homeowner's insurance that we're all most familiar with. That's like, hey, we've got to have this property insured in case there's a fire or this or that. But in the mortgage world, there's another type of insurance as well too. And it's in situations if the member is not putting down 20%, there is this thing on the mortgage called private mortgage insurance. And that's for loans where, the down payment is anything less than 20%. So, and then, there is flood insurance if you happen to be in a flood zone, but enough of the mortgage basics. And so on to our next topic, which is the mortgage products. Okay, there are four main products really I'm going to talk about, and that's the conventional loan. And the conventional loan can be a 30-year fixed, a 20-year fixed, a 15-year fixed, or a 10-year fixed. Obviously, if it's a 10-year fix, it's going to leave you with a much, much higher payment, but it also says that, hey, you're going to have your house paid off free and clear in a much shorter period of time. Not as common now in the industry are adjustable rate mortgage products. And what those are is that they might be amortized for, say, 30 years. However, they have a period that it only stays fixed for a certain amount of time. So like in the situation of a 3-1 or a 5-1, that rate is only going to stay the same for 3 years or 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, and that's going to adjust each year after that. Don't really recommend those given that the fact that the fixed rates are so low right now. Your conventional products, they can be used for a purchase and a refinance. You can get up to a 97% loan to value, which means you only have to have a 3% down payment. And then in certain situations for conventional, the seller can contribute up to 6% of the sales price. It does depend on the loan to value, but the down payment can either come from your own money or it can come from a gift from a family member. And it does have to be an immediate family member. It can't be a long distant cousin or anything like that. Also, conventional loans, they can be used for if someone wants to make some home improvements, and so you can get up to 80% of the appraised value of your home, and you can use that to maybe, make some upgrades to your home, and or an alternative to a conventional loan for refinances, you could certainly go to Peach State and see if they could do a home equity line of credit so you could tap into your home's equity. Also, too, on unconventional loans, they can be used to finance second homes, and they can also be used to purchase and refinance investment properties as well, too. Okay, next product, which I would love to talk about, is the FHA. The FHA really is the original first-time homebuyers product. It's older than dirt, which means it's maybe not as old as me, but it's still pretty old there. So, but it's typically a 15 or 30-year fixed rate. Yeah, there have been some recent changes, primarily because of COVID, that a lot of lenders like ourselves and many others are bumping up the credit score to 640 and able to do the FHA loan. It is intended just strictly for a primary residence. It can't be used for a second home, and it can't be used for investment property. It is a very, very, very flexible product in that a lot of times if someone does not have a lot of established credit, they would probably want to go with an FHA loan because traditional conventional mortgages, although they're good, they have much tighter criterion, and they really want credit to be established, for a good amount of time and have a certain amount of open trade lines. Whereas like your FHA, you can easily get the FHA, with less mature credit. It is a 3.5% down loan. The seller can actually pick up the 6% of the sales price of the home. And again, the money can come from your own funds, or it can come from an immediate family member. And another place that the down payment can come from as well too on all products is it can actually come from a 401k or an IRA account if your 401k or IRA provides, allows you to do that, but that is an acceptable source of a down payment. And again, this is just strictly for a primary residence, but you can also use an FHA to cash out on equity of your home as well too, and use for upgrades. And you are going to have a maximum loan to value on that of up to 85%. And then if you're just trying to do something to reduce your interest rate on your FHA, well, then you can do a rate and term refinance, and that'll go up to 97.75% of the home's appraised value. So great product. And then off to the next product, which I'll talk about briefly. Now, hopefully maybe in this audience, there might be some people that have served in the military or retired from the military. And if so, a Veterans Administration, which is a VA loan, is an awesome product. It is 100% financing, which means that you don't have to have a down payment. So if a house is $150,000 and you have no down payment, well, then that's a great product. You don't have to put anything down on it. But again, you do have to have what's called a certificate of eligibility. And, it's a pretty easy thing to figure out, with the VA if you actually are eligible for that. And again, awesome product. And it is great in that it allows the seller to contribute up to 6% of the closing costs. And it also will allow for a cash out refinance, and it'll go up to 90% loan to value. It doesn't have any sort of mortgage insurance on it from the VA. It just has a funding fee. The only drawback to the VA loan is that it can only be used for a primary residence. But again, wonderful, wonderful product. Okay, on to the next program that's out there. Okay, so you've got your USDA and your rural development loan. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's like I've lived in Georgia for about over 40 years, and it just seems like almost anything and everything in Georgia is becoming less rural. However, if the property that you're looking to buy is actually in a rural area, USDA loan again is an awesome product, and it doesn't require a down payment, so it's true 100% financing. It is strictly for a primary residence only. So it can't be used for a second home or investment property. There's no way to wiggle around that. It is just strictly for a primary residence. And again, true zero down payment. The seller can actually contribute up to 9% of the sales price. But I think Cassie would probably tell you the sellers are not really typically wanting to contribute that much closing costs, given the fact that it really is more of a seller's market and not necessarily a buyer's market. But again, great product. It is tied into being in a certain zip code, and it does have some income limits that apply to it. But again, a wonderful 100% down payment product. And those are the programs I wanted to talk about. And then, so if we can go back to the presentation and look at the, I think the next thing we're going to be doing is the, let's see, we have the mortgage process itself. So, you know, when you've spoken with Cassie, you know, she's probably not concerned whether you're going to be buying in 3 months or 9 months, but, you know, there is a mortgage process that you have to go through to get pre-qualified. And so what you're going to do is you're going to contact your loan officer at Peach State and Member First to get pre-qualified. And a pre-qualification is essentially, you know, for you to provide the documentation to the loan officer so they can determine that you are truly pre-qualified or pre-approved. And so you're going to make application. You're going to provide the loan officer with your pay stubs, your W-2s, and you're going to let them know, what they, where the down payment's going to come from. And so, again, I don't want to scare you because, if you follow the steps that, for getting pre-approved, it's really quite simple to get pre-approved for a mortgage. But it is a little bit different than, say, getting approved for a car, because when you buy a car, it's typically just a credit score. Whereas like in a mortgage, we vet everything on that credit report. We vet everything on the pay stubs, and we vet everything on the bank statements. We care about things like, okay, what's this large deposit that's in your bank statement? And it's like, is it coming from a source that's either payroll related, or is it a gift from a family member? If it's not one of those two things, then it's not an asset that we can actually use. But again, if you're buying a car, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so you provided your loan officer with your pay stubs and W-2s and all that. You've made application. And then, you're under contract with Cassie. She's found you a wonderful home, and it's, the home of your dreams, and it will be the happiest day of your life. So, okay, so you've made application, you're under contract, then the file goes into processing, and the processor really is just double checking and making sure the loan officer submitted, that the required documents so that the file can be submitted to an underwriter who then actually takes a look at those documents that have been provided and basically determines the authenticity of them to make sure that, yes, these are legitimate. I'm going to approve this loan. And then, your underwriter puts a file in a clear to close process. Typically the underwriting is going to approve the loan, but sometimes there can be conditions, and a condition could be something just as simple as, hey, I need to have a quote from your homeowner's insurance. You forgot to get that. So, that's one thing that you have to do when you're going through the home buying process is pick out a home insurance company. So, and then, your file gets approved and put in a clear to close status. And then because of federal regulations, we send you out a closing disclosure. And this closing disclosure has to be sent to you 3 days before the actual transaction consumes. And so you really do have a lot of time to look at this and say, hey, this is what we just, the lender disclosed up front on a loan estimate. Does it match what's on the closing disclosure? And then so 3 days later, your transaction consumes, and voila, you're moving into your dream home. So that is the mortgage process there. And then, we've got later for you guys if you want to take a look at it, but there are a lot of mortgage terms that we use in the industry, like LTV, loan to value, purchase agreement, so on and so forth, but you can have that later to take a look at from the presentation. So the next thing we want to do is just actually walk you through a little video. It'll only take a couple minutes, and it's basically, it kind of takes you through the mortgage process.
Welcome to Member First Mortgage. In this video, we'll walk you through the steps of the mortgage process and what to expect. Once your loan application has been submitted, a mortgage consultant will reach out to you to review your financing needs and collect loan documentation. Upon review by an underwriter, a conditional approval will be granted. Your loan processor will assist you in satisfying the underwriting conditions. It is helpful to have consistent access to your phone and email as you work with your loan origination team. Make sure to keep supporting loan documentation in a safe but handy place throughout the process. Remember that your income, assets, and other will be under review throughout the entire loan origination process. Avoid opening any new lines of credit or making other large purchases during this time. Doing so could adversely affect your ability to obtain a mortgage loan. An appraiser will contact you to schedule the inspection of the home. This is necessary to determine the home's value. Again, you will want to make sure you have consistent access to your phone and email to schedule this appointment promptly. Once the value of the home has been determined and all documentation collected and reviewed by underwriting, a clear to close will be issued and your mortgage consultant will contact you to schedule the loan closing. The closing appointment will require about an hour of your time to sign the final loan documentation. Then with keys in hand, you've completed the home purchase or refinance process.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So one of the things I did not mention on the prior slides that we had for the different loan products, I talked about a down payment. And the reason why I didn't mention this one thing is that we've got Shadante Butler from Federal Home Loan Bank, which she can tell you about, regardless of whichever loan product you use. Not only does your down payment not have to come from your own funds, or it can actually come from a family member, it can actually be down payment assistance from Federal Home Loan Bank. And that is perfectly acceptable on all the loan products I discussed earlier. So handing this over now to Shadante Butler to discuss.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to have the opportunity to talk with you about the Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta's Down Payment Assistance Program. So I know many of you have not heard of Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta, and that's completely okay. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who we are. So we are a cooperative bank. So what that means is we are owned by our member financial institutions, such as Peach State Credit Union. So we work with our member financial institutions to provide financing, community development grants, and other services to essentially help our members provide home loans and economic development in their communities. So we also serve the housing and economic development needs of our community. So we primarily serve member financial institutions that are in the Southeast. So we have members that are all the way from Maryland down to Florida and over to Alabama. And the reason why we're here today is one of the things that really makes us different from some other financial institutions is that we actually contribute 10% of our annual income every year to affordable housing programs. These funds are available through our members, such as Peach State Federal Credit Union. And so over the years, we have helped to create or preserve more than 142,000 affordable housing units throughout the Southeast. And that also helps to fuel job growth. So just want to, again, talk with you a little bit about who and what we are. So that 10% goes to what we call our affordable housing products, or our down payment assistance program. So again, happy to have the opportunity to talk with you about these programs. Jim did a great job earlier of walking you through the different types of first mortgages that are available, whether it's conventional or FHA or veterans products. And as he mentioned, these work with pretty much any of those products. So the first one I want to mention to you today is our First Time Homebuyer product. This is one that is designed to serve first-time homebuyers. Jim talked about the down payment that's required, and these are essentially providing down payment funds with the goal of hopefully helping you to pay less money out of pocket to purchase your home. So the First Time Homebuyer program allows you to access up to $5,000. You do have to make a contribution of your own funds. So you have to put in at least $1,000 in order to qualify. But that $1,000 can be if you're paying earnest money, if you're paying for items outside of closing. Let's say you pay for an appraisal as part of the home buying process, that would count. And it could also be a gift from a family member. So any of those things would count towards your $1,000 contribution, and again, enable you to receive up to $5,000 towards the purchase of that home. Now, I want to mention for first-time home buyers, it doesn't mean that you've never owned a home. For us, first-time home buyers means that you have not owned a home in the past 3 years. So if you meet that definition, again, and also income limits that I'll talk more about, but you could access up to $5,000 towards that purchase. The next one I want to talk about is our Community Partners product. For any of you out there that maybe work in education, or maybe you're a police officer, firefighter, healthcare worker, the Community Partners product is meant to serve you. So this product allows you to access up to $7,500 for the purchase of a home. So you'll notice it's a little bit more than our other first-time homebuyer product. Still requires that $1,000 contribution. For this product, you do not have to be a first-time home buyer. So as long as you're purchasing what's going to be your primary residence, even if you have owned another property in the past, you could still potentially qualify as a community partner. And I also want to point out with this product that it's driven by who your employer is. So when we say educator, we mean anybody that works for an educational institution. When we say healthcare, it means anybody that works for a healthcare organization. So again, that's why it's really important to talk to both your Peach State and Member First team members to figure out whether you would be eligible based on the definition for community partners. The next one I want to talk about is our foreclosure recovery product. So this product is somewhat unique. It is really designed to help home buyers that are purchasing foreclosed properties. So the name can be a little bit confusing. So again, this is a purchase scenario, but if you're purchasing a foreclosed property from one of Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta's members, then you can access up to $15,000 on the purchase of that property. So for example there, let's say you're purchasing a Bank of America foreclosure. Well, because Bank of America, just like Peach State, is a member of Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta, that means purchasing that property, again, subject to income limits, you could potentially access up to $15,000 towards the purchase of that property. The $1,000 contribution is still required, and also this one is available to first-time or non-first-time home buyers. So the next product I want to talk about is our veterans product. So for any veterans out there, you're able to access up to $7,500 towards the purchase of your home. And also as another note, if you happen to be a veteran that maybe has been deployed to some sort of overseas conflict, maybe you were in Iraq or Afghanistan, something like that, you're actually able to get a little bit more. You're actually able to get up to $10,000 on the purchase of that property. Another added benefit for veterans, I want to make sure I mention, whereas the other products do require you to put in at least $1,000 of your own money, for veterans, we don't require any contribution. So if you're a veteran, you're able to get either $7,500 or $10,000 towards the purchase of your property without having to contribute any of your own funds. And if you go back, I know Jim talked about VA loans that don't require down payment. And of course, this product, even though you may not be required to provide a down payment, could help you lower your first mortgage amount, or you could use the money to pay for those closing costs that Jim talked about as well. So there's still benefit, even though a down payment may not necessarily be required, there's still benefit for veterans being able to access these funds. So as I mentioned, these funds are subject to certain income limits. So it's really important to work closely with your Peach State and Member First team members to determine whether or not you qualify based on income. And those income limits are based on where you're purchasing a property as well as how many people live in the household. So your team members can certainly help you work through that process. So again, I want to thank you. I enjoyed having the opportunity to talk with you about our down payment assistance program. And so now I will turn it over to Karen from Battlefield Title.
Good morning. I'm Karen Engel. I own Battlefield Title Company in Ringgold, Georgia. I graduated from law school back in '95, so I've been practicing for about 25 years now, concentrating in real estate since 1998. And one of my primary focuses is education. The more we can educate realtors and lenders and buyers and sellers, then the easier the transaction happens. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about what a title company or settlement agent does. The first thing that we do is work with your realtor to do your title search. So we get a copy of your contract, we find out what the property is, and then we go to the courthouse or the online records and we search as much as we can about the property that you're purchasing. The title search can come up with a very clean title, or it can identify problems that need to be taken care of prior to you purchasing the property. And once those problems are addressed, then we can issue title insurance to you. A lot of times the correction process for taking care of the problems that we find in the title search requires a lot of cooperation from various agencies and people in the process, and that's our job. That's what we take care of, so that by the time you get to the closing table, you have a clean title, you can get title insurance, and you can walk away owning your home and knowing that it's a good deal. The product that we actually offer, that we sell to you, is title insurance. It is an optional product, but in my mind, it's really not optional. This is the biggest investment of your life, and why not insure it? Title insurance does protect your equity in the property, which you're going to be building over time. If you're getting a loan and you're paying that loan down, then you're building up equity in your property. So you want to protect that equity, and title insurance protects that equity against any claims that arise for undiscoverable issues. So a minute ago, I said we do that title search, we discover as many problems as we possibly can, we address them and we correct them. But there are things that happen that aren't discoverable. There are clerical errors made in the deed records, there's fraud, there's forgery, there's unspoken heirs who, somebody died back in the chain of title and all of that person's heirs didn't come forward and address their ownership in the property. So those are the types of things that title insurance protects an owner against. There are two types of title insurance. One is the owner's title insurance policy, which I have just said is optional, although I highly encourage it. The other is a lender's title insurance policy. And as part of this process, your lender is going to require that you protect them against any title issues. So your lender's title policy protects your lender, but it is something that you're required to pay for. If your lender is requiring it, then I think you should consider protecting yourself just as much, if not more. It serves as a loss prevention insurance policy. So basically it protects you against someone coming up, knocking on your door and saying they have a claim to your property or to the equity in your property. And if that happens, basically you call your title insurance company and they will defend any claims against your property. It is a one-time premium that you pay at closing. It can be included in your closing cost. If you're in one of these programs where you've got the seller paying for part of your closing cost or your down payment assistance program, then title insurance is certainly something that can be paid out of those programs or out of your seller paid closing costs. But you pay it once, you never have to pay it again. So it's not like an ongoing premium like your homeowner's policy or your car policy. You pay this once and it protects you against claims coming against you in the future. If you want to move on to the next slide. The other product that your settlement agent provides is the closing itself. So you've worked with your realtor, you've worked with your lender, you're getting excited, and the last stop between you and your house is my office or the settlement agent, and that's where you do your actual closing. We coordinate with all the different parties involved. Usually there's at least 5. There's a buyer's agent, a seller's agent, a buyer, a seller, and a lender. So we do all the coordination between all of those different parties. We get everybody on the same page. We make sure that anything that needs to be paid at closing, that those invoices or those payments are collected. We make sure that everything gets paid out to the right people. Then we sit down at the table with you and we go over your lender's documents and we go over deeds and we go over other documents with you. And our goal is to make sure that by the time you walk out of our office, you understand the documents that you've signed. To us, it's very important that you not walk out confused. A lot of people think that the most important thing is what's my interest rate and what's my payment. But you do have obligations as a home buyer, and those obligations are to your lender. So we want to make sure that you understand what you're signing and that you're comfortable with what you're walking out with. So the last thing that we do is explain all of this and make sure that everybody gets paid, and then you walk out with a set of keys to your new home. So that pretty much wraps up what title agents do, or settlement agents. You'll hear us called lots of different things: the closing attorney, the closing company, the title agent, the settlement agent. But those are the main three offerings that we provide throughout the process. And at this point, I'm going to give this back over to Elijah to wrap things up.
All right, thank you, Karen. Well, that was a lot of great information and definitely walked us through the home buying process. And what we'd like to do now is kind of open it up for some questions. I think, Deidre, I think you're going to kind of help me with those, and we're going to kind of walk through and ask our panelists some great questions and kind of fill in maybe some blanks that folks might have from the presentation itself. So
absolutely, welcome back. That was amazing, you all. That was the PBJ sandwich of all PBJ sandwiches. Let me tell you, you guys did a great job. So what I think we'd like to do, because we got some great questions here, Elijah, and I think, why don't we start with the realtor? What do you think? Why don't we start with the top slice of bread? What do you think?
all right, that sounds like a plan to me. So
Cassie Kahili, one of the questions that we see here is, who pays the realtor's commission?
The realtor's commission is actually paid at closing by the seller unless some other arrangement has been made. So pretty much the seller.
Okay. Couple of other questions. Somebody wants to know, why is a final inspection important?
Oh, that's a very good question. The final inspection is to show us as the buyers that we are satisfied with our final inspection, and to allow us time to see if there's anything's left in the home. So with that seller's disclosure, we want to make sure everything is left with the home that seller said that they would leave. So we want to make sure that there's no damages, that we're actually buying the home that we want. And we're doing that final walkthrough together before we go to closing.
Okay, so that probably ties to this question that somebody wants to have answered too. Why is the home warranty? What is a home warranty, and what does it cover, and how do I get one?
Yeah, very good question. Home warranty protects buyers from costs from covered repairs and systems. That includes appliances in their new home. It covers major components, anything such as your central heating and air, hot water heater, plumbing, electrical, anything, including those appliances in your home. So anything that's going to be a potential damage, that home warranty will cover that. Our office at REMAX Real Estate Center, we have different options available that will be best to our clients. So we would love to be able to share those options if and when you need that home warranty when purchasing a home.
That's awesome. And then our last question, Cassie, somebody wants to know, are you really the traffic cop in the transaction? Are you really the one out there with the police hat on and you're directing people? Or is that you?
I don't think of it as a traffic cop, but I think of it as one that just leads you into the nice main in the middle of that road. That way you're not veering off and getting off the beaten path. I like to be able to steer you in the right direction and make sure it's as smooth and easy as possible.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, and thank you for teaching people how to build this process out. So Elijah, do you want to go to the middle of the sandwich? Do you want to talk a little bit to Jim?
Sure, but before we do, I got a curveball for Cassie right quick. It's something that I hear all the time. And so a question that I have is, we recommend that everyone get a buyer's agent, and, you've got the listing agent. So is that buyer's agent going to cost me money? Like, how does that work? How do they get paid?
Very good question. So if you're working with me, I can be your buyer's agent or your listing agent. Typically, your listing agent, they're going to be using the cost from, so like if you're selling your house, we get paid through the sales of the house. That's how we get paid as an agent. So typically it's going to be from the agent that's your listing agent. That's how, even if I'm going to be the buyer's agent, I know that can be confusing, but we only get paid if we go through to the ending of that process at closing.
Right.
We don't get paid, at every time we show you a house. You're not handing us a dollar amount.
Right. And so, like, if there's two agents, a buyer's agent and a listing agent, then the buyer's agent gets a portion of that original listing commission from the seller. So the buyer's not actually paying for that additional representation, correct?
Correct. And normally it's a 6%. And normally they just split that. So it's 3% for the listing agent, 3% for the buyer's agent. Normally they just share that amount, and it just depends. That can be negotiated as well. It just depends on the client, and it also depends on the two agents working together. So very good question.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Jim, you're up. So the next part of the building the sandwich here, the mortgage process. And being a mortgage originator for many years, I heard this question almost every time. So the question that we've gotten here is, how long does it take to close on a mortgage with Peach State, Federal Credit Union, and Members First Mortgage? So Jim, when am I going to get my keys to my new house?
Tomorrow, is that too soon?
That's great.
And then I woke up. But no, in any event, well, I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces and parts with buying a home, and one thing I really want to stress is that you know, make sure you've got a good realtor like Cassie, because they can make the process that much smoother. And that all too often in her industry and my industry, there are a lot of people that actually do their job part-time. Cassie is not part-time; she's full-time. My company, the loan officers at Peach State, they're full-time. And, you know, it's a dynamic transaction that there can be twists and turns. But on a purchase deal, you know, once we finally have a fully executed, you know, contract that's signed off by all parties, you're looking at approximately 30 days. Prior to COVID, we were getting purchase deals closed in 20 days. But with COVID, you know, it kind of has broken up the assembly line a little bit. And so we do need an honest good 30 days on a purchase deal. Refinances, it might take up to about 45 days, given that the volume is at, you know, record pace, and we historically have got some of the lowest rates of all time, and they've not only just lasted for a month, but we're going on 4 months, and there's no stopping these rates from staying where they're at. I don't see. So purchase, you're looking at 30 days, and refinance about 45 to 60 days.
Awesome. All right, and so the next question I've got here is this individual is asking, when should I give notice to my landlord that I'm moving during the mortgage loan process? So when should I let them know that the moving truck's going to be there and I'm headed out?
Well, I would just advise that it's you know, first wait for the mortgage person to let you know when you've got your clear to close. You can certainly schedule it, you know, ahead of time, but you know, don't you know, firm it up once you actually get that clear to close. And so once we got the clear to close, then it's like we're going to be sending out the CD, and then you can definitely make you can, you know, fine tune your plans to get that moving truck and all that.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Good
great.
question.
And then talking about down payment assistance, you know, Shadante had a lot of great information there, and the question we've got here is layering that down payment assistance. Can you do that with other sources of, like, I know some cities and counties have down payment assistance that are out there in certain areas, and so can you layer like down payment assistance from Federal Home Loan Bank with like local down payment assistance to get a mortgage with Peach State?
So from Federal Home Loan Bank perspective, absolutely. So we like to say that we play well with others. So we do allow you to combine our down payment assistance with other sources that are out there. So absolutely.
And Jim, how about from our perspective on the mortgage side, is that acceptable to layer those?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's you know, we don't care. It just has to be from a reputable source like Federal Home Loan Bank or some of the other down payment assistance you know, that are out there. You know, in situations like this, though, you know, sometimes, I mean, Federal Home Loan Bank is very efficient, so we you know, you don't see delays from them. But I can't speak about other down payment assistance programs, you know. So, but yeah, we accept it on conventional and FHA, so it's perfectly acceptable.
All right, great. So we'll transition to that's a good segue, I guess, to Federal Home Loan Bank and to Shadante. Deidre, do you want to take her questions and run with it?
Sure, absolutely. So Shadante, talking about Federal Home Loan Bank, because you've got a first-time home buyer product. One of our attendees wants to know, am I required to complete home buyer counseling for the down payment assistance portion that I'll be receiving from FHLB? And Shadante, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. So yes, we do require all of our home buyers that are receiving funds from FHL Bank Atlanta to go through home buyer counseling. The way that would work is once you have been approved for the down payment assistance, you would get the information to contact the counseling provider to schedule that appointment. The counseling generally only takes about 45 minutes to an hour, and you can schedule it at your convenience. So it's pretty easy to complete, but we do require that counseling. Feel like it's important for the home buyers to understand everything that they're signing up for in terms of the mortgage, responsibilities of home ownership, those types of things.
That's awesome. So let me ask Elijah, Cassie, and Karen, do you all have a HUD agency there in your market that provides that down payment or the homeowner counseling?
To my knowledge, we do not have a local counseling agency. There are some in Chattanooga, which is in north of us up in Tennessee. That would probably be our local one for this area if you want to go face to face. There may be still one in Dalton, but a lot of our folks here locally do the online counseling, and so
Okay,
we do it through online, and we send them the link, and they kind of go through and complete it that way.
Okay, and the online is acceptable, Shadante?
Actually, for us, we do require the telephonic counseling. So we do all of our counseling with an entity called ClearPoint. They're the provider for our counseling. So it's all telephonic through ClearPoint.
Okay, good deal. That's good to know. Okay, so telephonic, and that has to happen through you.
Yes, it
does. Okay, got it. Okay, cool beans. So another question that someone has here, they want to know, do I have to repay the down payment assistance that I got from you guys?
And so I guess there are a couple of answers to that. So one is, these basically, if you stay in the home for 5 years, there's no repayment. So as long as you stay in for 5 years, it's completely forgiven. If you were to move within that 5-year period, then there could be the possibility of repayment if you're making money on the sale of the house. So in those types of situations, what you would do would be to work through Peach State, Member First, and Federal Home Loan Bank. We would determine if there is a payoff required within that 5 years. But again, if you stay in the home for 5 years, it's completely forgiven. During that 5 years, you're not making any payments on the money from Federal Home Loan Bank, and there's no interest accruing.
Okay, very good, very good. And then the last question that somebody has for you, Ms. Shadante, is this. Can I use more than one type of down payment assistance? We actually talked about that a little bit. So you can use multiple types of down payment assistance in conjunction with FHLB.
You can. So you cannot use more than one product from FHLB. So for instance, if you qualify for First Time Homebuyer and Community Partner, you would have to pick one product. But absolutely, you can combine those with other sources of down payment assistance, as we mentioned earlier, from city, county, and other sources of down payment. You can certainly combine our funds with theirs.
Okay, good deal, good deal. So Elijah, it's time for us to start shoring up this peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So where's our top layer of bread, brother?
The top layer is going to be when you actually sign on the dotted line and get your keys. So that's going to be with the real estate attorney. She gets all the smiles. She gets the good part at the end there. So it's Karen Engel, and Karen, we got a few good questions for you as well. So you ready?
I am.
All right. So Karen, who picks the title company and the settlement agent, the real estate attorney? Who picks that? And typically, when is that picking of the settlement agent done, in the process?
Typically, it's done when Cassie writes an offer on the house. One of the things that the Georgia Realtor contract does is specifies who's the settlement agent. So the buyer is going to specify that in the contract. It can be negotiated, through counteroffers between buyer and seller. But typically, the product that is being paid for is the closing fee and the title insurance, and those are buyer fees. So the buyer gets to choose where to close. Now, there are always going to be reasons to negotiate that, and somebody's got a favorite here or a favorite there. The one thing that cannot happen is that the buyer cannot be required to close at any particular closing attorney or closing agent. So typically in most lenders' closing packages, there's a federal form that says I wasn't coerced to close at this particular title company. So it's pretty much buyer's choice.
Okay, great. All right, and the next question we've got for you is man, an attorney to do the paperwork. So who does the closing attorney actually represent? This sounds really official. So who are you representing as an attorney?
So first of all, in Georgia, attorneys are required to be part of the transaction. So that's kind of why I'm around. But who do I represent? I represent the lender. So in any transaction that has a loan, I represent the lender. That doesn't mean that the buyer doesn't get some really good free legal advice, because while I'm sitting at the table, I'm going to answer any question that that buyer has. It's in the lender's best interest that the buyer understand everything. So it's kind of twofold. I'm there for buyer support, but I technically represent the lender.
Awesome. So you represent us. That's good. We like that. So, all right. And then actually when I go in, the next question here, this is a good one because you never know what you're walking into. And as you pointed out earlier, there's going to be like 5 people sitting around a table. It's a lot of pressure and I'm signing all this paperwork. So how long does that process normally take? When I go in there and I meet you and shake your hand and sit down and you give me a blue ink pen, how long is that going to take to get through all that?
That blue ink pen is important, by the way, especially during COVID. People want to bring their own pens and they have to be blue. But it typically takes an hour for the seller to sign and the buyer to sign and for the checks to be written, all the explanations to be made. You can typically set aside an hour. Now, there are going to be exceptions to the rule. There are going to be times when there are more questions than others. There's going to be times when an issue pops up at the last minute that we have to address and we have to deal with. You know, the one that I hate is when you're expecting 2 or 3 sellers to show up and one shows up and nobody bothered to tell us that the sellers had gotten divorced or that one of the sellers had died a year ago. So those are the types of things that come up and kind of cause us a little bit of a problem at the very end. Those are also the types of things that if we know ahead of time we can deal with. So assuming that there are no last minute issues that pop up, unexpected surprises, you can typically plan on being in our office for about an hour and get a good explanation of what you're signing.
Awesome. So make sure the closing package is there and the wire's there and it'll take an hour.
Exactly.
Right? Awesome. All right. And the last question that we've got, and this one's kind of a little bit of a curveball, but can you explain a little bit about what intangible tax is and the differences between like maybe a bank or a regular mortgage company versus like Peach State? You know, do you have to pay it when you close along with us versus other lenders?
So intangible tax is a state tax on your mortgage. It is $1.50 for every $500 that you borrow. So it can add up pretty quickly. And we collect it at the closing table and we pay it when we record the mortgage at the courthouse. So we collect it from the buyer on the settlement statement. We turn around and write a check to the courthouse when we submit your mortgage to be recorded. And there are some loans that are exempt from intangible tax, primarily loans that involve the government or credit unions. They are exempt from the intangible tax. So getting a loan with a credit union actually can save you a fair chunk of change. When you're talking about a $100,000 mortgage, you're talking about $300 of intangible tax. And depending on your choices for your mortgage, you can save that by going through a credit union. Now, I will say that Jim chimed in an earlier discussion and said that there are certain mortgages that qualify as, for that exemption and certain ones that don't, even through a credit union. So you have to look really closely at who your lender is and what loan product you're getting, but you can save money on the intangible tax by making the right choices.
Awesome. Awesome, Karen. Well, thank you so much for that. And I think that gets all the sandwich built. And then Deidre, I think you may have maybe a question or two for me, maybe?
Yeah, some folks want to hear from you, my friend. They've got some good questions here. So folks want to know, do I have to be a member of Peach State Federal Credit Union to take advantage of all of these amazing products that you have?
My question to that is, why wouldn't you want to be a member?
Right.
I mean, so the answer to that is yes. So you know, Members First and Peach State, we partner together, and in order to do a mortgage through us, you do have to be a member. And you know, we're definitely consumer driven. I would recommend anyone, highly recommend anyone, to begin a relationship with us to see what we're about, because we're all about consumers and the individual. We're member owned, which means when you are one of our members, one of our customers, you're our boss. I answer to you. You get a vote in the direction of our institution, which that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. I mean, we pride ourselves on customer service and taking care of that member above all else. So that's a big deal. We've got branches all over Georgia and South Carolina, especially the northern part of Georgia. So we've got you covered in this area with the Trine branch and the Lafayette branch right there on Main Street. And as far as coming in and doing a mortgage, I don't believe that you're going to get more better pricing or better service than what you're going to get through us, through, you know, our partnership with Jim and the folks that are at our local branch. And coming in and sitting down with them and just seeing what we're all about, I think you'll be very, very pleased with becoming a member at Peach State.
And I happen to know that Peach State is a great place to bank. I met Ryan Hawk almost, my goodness, I think Ryan and I are hitting on 10 years. We talked about double digits. And I remember meeting Ryan and understanding the focus. Your focus is about helping your members afford life. So with that question, or with that statement, I want to ask you this. Can Peach State Federal Credit Union help somebody that wants to get a mortgage but that's not credit ready yet? Can they help somebody build their credit profile?
Yes, so that's actually a huge part of my job. You know, I'm part of community development and outreach, and so, you know, with us being formerly a teachers credit union, we originally began as Gwinnett County's Teachers Educators Credit Union. We have a heart for education and reaching out to our community and providing that. And part of what we do is right there on our website. It's easy to find. Like when you hit peachstatefcu.org, which is our website, there's a services tab. And under that services tab, I mean, for anyone, members and non-members, you can go check this out. We've got the balance financial fitness. There's the balance tab there. And so under that, we've got, you know, all kinds of different topics where you can get coaching and counseling. We've got debt and money management. We've got financial coaching. We've got a credit report review where we'll help you pull your annual credit report and kind of review it with you and talk you through that. Home buying coaching, home ownership coaching. You can set an appointment with the counselor anytime and do it from the comfort of your own home. So definitely we can help you with that. We can help walk you through the process of building your credit score, repairing any bumps and bruises that are there, or letting you know that you're ready to go and getting you in the right hands, getting you over to Cassie and letting you start looking at the home buying process if that's the route you want to go. So yes.
That's awesome. So that kind of ties into this last question that somebody has, which is, where does Peach State Federal Credit Union and Elijah Parker, where do you fit into their mortgage process?
Well, a lot of times they're coming to me early on in the process, either because I'm doing the education and outreach in the community, or because they've actually come and they're to the branch to inquire about it. So I'm usually on the front end. I'm usually kind of that trusted advisor that's giving them a little bit of direction, maybe, you know, handing them off to Cassie, handing them off to Jim, and getting them to the right folks so they can get through the process. And so I've got a lot of good advice that I can give just from being in the industry for so long. I mean, I started in the mortgage world back in 2000, and so it's been 20 years of kind of grinding through the mortgage business, learning it. You know, I've even done commercial and things of that nature. So I've got a lot of that to fall back on. I also worked at a nonprofit where I did home buyer education, foreclosure prevention, budget counseling, and everything. So I've also got the heart for teaching the process as well. So usually I'm on that front end. I'm right there, and I'll stay with you all the way through. If you've got questions, if you need direction, if you get stuck somewhere, I'll help you. So that's how I fit.
And I can tell, I can say this, when I lived in Chattanooga, your name preceded you, your reputation preceded you, because I do remember when all that great work was going on, a lot of revitalization in Chattanooga, a big push for affordable housing. And I remember your name, my friend. So I say congratulations. Any of us who've been in this grind, it's been 36 years for me. So I say yay.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So want to wrap this up with everybody. So here's a big question. So here's the elephant in the room. And we'd like for each of you to just answer individually. How has COVID-19 affected the real estate finance industry and the mortgage industry? So just kind of share with us, each person. So I guess we'll start with you, Ms. Realtor. So how has it affected you?
For me, with COVID-19 affecting me going out, listing homes, and then working with buyers, for the listing part of it, the seller may not want to leave their home, but we can suggest it. So we want to be as flexible as possible. It's whatever that seller would like. So some of them, they leave the home. We also have the professional photographer come out, and that is also a time that that homeowner at the time leaves that house. So we want to make sure that we can take photos and be out of your way. We also, as the buyer's agent, we're working with you. We have virtual tours available. So that is something where you don't actually have to go into the home to see it. 90% of your buyers are also looking online. So that tool is electronic. And we also have a bunch of our REMAX real estate, not shuffling papers physically, but we are with our tool as dot loop. We have that. It's a tool that our office at REMAX offers, and that is something that we can make that transaction a little bit easier. It's not using that blue pen that we talked about earlier. It's something that you can use as a click of a button that makes all the transactions a lot easier, simple as possible. We can walk you through it. It's something that we can talk about on the phone. While the inventory is a little bit low, you've also got that increased price right now. So houses are going quickly. So things are going a lot quicker. I'm not quite sure if that's because of COVID-19, and that could be playing a factor in that. So we just want to make sure that you're staying healthy. We want to make sure that we're being as flexible and safe during this time.
Awesome. Please be safe out there. And we appreciate you. We appreciate your leadership in the real estate industry, Cassie. So Jim, talk to us on the mortgage side. So what's going on, man? What's COVID done over there?
I mean, it's kind of caused us as a company to actually have everybody working from home, from processors, closers, underwriters, and all that. And so, getting a mortgage is kind of like a little bit of like an assembly line, and some of the responsibilities are purely on us, and then the other responsibilities are on like the third parties, like the appraisers that are not employed by us, the title companies, attorneys that are not employed by us, and so on and so forth. And so, I see that's, been causing a delay of like 7 to 10 days. And that's why it's like, hey, if it's a purchase, we want a good honest 30 days. Whereas prior to COVID, we could get those purchase deals closed in 20 days. And then, again, it's, with the mortgage, it's you are going to be thoroughly vetted. Don't be intimidated by that. But it's like, it's in the legal system, in theory, you're innocent until proven guilty, but in the mortgage world is you're guilty until proven innocent. So it's like, if we ask for an updated bank statement, it's just say, hey, how high do I need to jump for that bank statement? Get it to us right away. Because again, it's like this is a transaction that involves a lot of independent parties. And so, again, a lot of our processors would prefer to work at the office because a lot of them have little children. And so they're, in addition to working overtime, they're have little children that, might have some needs while they're working from home. And so I the silver lining of the pandemic is we finally figured out, it's like, oh, wow, we really can work from home. But for some people, it's causing a little bit of delays just because there's not that collaboration that's like, hey, I'm just going to walk over to the next office and say, hey, what do I do this scenario? You got to make a phone call, or you got to send an email. It's just the instantaneous response that you can sometimes get prior to COVID is much better than working from home.
So Jim, let me ask a question. With all of the private information that people are sharing, social security numbers, bank statements, how is working at home? How have you all made that safe for processors and underwriters and loan officers?
Well, it's paperless to begin with, and then it's like our application actually, when we originate loans, it's paperless, but also it creates a secure link to the member so they can actually upload those documents. So, in this environment, we've been this way for a couple of years. Everything is paperless. So, your processors, your underwriters, your closers, they have multiple monitors. And so they're looking at documents that are secured on our secure servers. But as far as like the members actually having to send those documents, we have secure ways for the members to get that stuff as well too. So it stays self-contained on secure servers.
Okay, good
Good
deal.
question.
Secured service. That's good. Thank you. Thank you very much. So Shadante, talk to us a little bit about FHLB. I know that you don't deal directly with the consumer, but how has COVID impacted you all?
Sure. So, and as you mentioned, so the way our application process works is that in this case, Peach State or Member First would actually be submitting the home buyer's application to us. And so that part, works well. As Jim mentioned, it's all uploaded electronically. So that process works smoothly. But I think what we have seen, and we wondered at the beginning of this if we would start to see a decline in volume, but we're seeing quite the opposite. We're seeing pretty heavy demand for our products right now. So we are seeing a large surge of applications. Our team is doing a great job of managing those applications and trying to make sure we're adhering to our normal turnaround times. But I would just say from the home buyer's perspective, it really just underscores the importance of being able to submit the documentation we need in a timely manner so that we can make sure we continue processing those applications quickly. So when you're getting those requests, like Jim said, hey, we need this information, we need, pay stubs or whatever that is, just please make sure you're providing that to us as quickly as possible.
Very good, very good. And then lastly, to our closing attorney partner. So Ms. Karen, how has COVID-19 impacted your ability to navigate the terrain to closing?
Well, unfortunately, even though all you guys have gone to e-sign documents in electronic format, when it gets to the time to actually sign documents, it's still ink on paper. So we still have people coming into our office. We are actually still open 8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. So we've had to kind of adjust our attitude towards, the cleaning process. We do everything that we can to protect the people who are coming in from the virus while still, performing the processes that we have to perform. So timing is a little bit longer now than it has been, as Jim and Cassie and Elijah and Shadante can all attest to. The volume has increased rather than decreased through this. And so, we're dealing with a lot more closings than we used to. We separate the sellers and the buyers now into different rooms so that we don't have so many people in contact with one another. And that in and of itself doesn't sound like it takes a lot of time, but going back and forth between rooms to get signatures actually lengthens the closing process a little bit. Because we are separating buyers and sellers into different rooms, it does cut down the number of closings that we can do per day. So we're not able to service you lenders and buyers and sellers quite as fast as we used to, just because our space is limited while the volume is up. So we've done a lot of juggling to try to maintain our level of service to all of your clients, while maintaining a level of safety that keeps everybody happy. So it's been a juggling act for us, but I think we're trying to do the best we can to navigate this new world.
That's amazing. And again, thank you for what you're doing because you put yourself at risk, but it's business continues, right?
Exactly.
But we have got to find the new normal and our groove in that road. This has been absolutely incredible. You all are truly subject matter experts in your field, and we want everybody to please take down the contact information for these amazing folks. And Elijah, if you would just if you would walk people through the process that they must adhere to in order to get into this Peach State home buying space with you guys, so they can have Cassie, they can have Karen, they can have Jim, they can have Shadante, they can have access to all these amazing tools, because this was really good, you guys. Great job.
Yes, definitely. So as you can see, the contact information is there on your screen. You can start with me if you would like. When you're coming to Peach State, you can reach out to me. It's got my contact information there. From there, I would probably hand you off to Jim immediately at that point. And then, as we would go through, get you pre-qualified, get you to Cassie, and then ultimately to Karen. But yes, you can stop by either of the branches if you prefer to do it in person. They would also get you to Jim or myself. And so just the first step is just really just reaching out to us, and then we'll start kind of handing you off through the process and get everybody involved. So.
And Elijah, can you do this one other thing for everybody that's watching? I know that you all have something called you have SEG groups. So individuals that can actually, they're kind of automatically grandfathered in as being able to become members at Peach State. Who are some of those SEG groups that you've got there in your market?
Yes, so we got select employer groups, and we have a large list that is also found on our website by county. But some of the larger ones in our area is like Neeson, Brake, which is a large manufacturer in our market. We've got Unique Fabricating. We've got several other mid to large manufacturing groups. We've got a lot of smaller self-employed businesses that have gotten signed on with us. We've also got the City of Lafayette, which all the city workers there are grandfathered in. And then also, in Chattooga County, we're a community charter there. So anybody who lives, works, shops, or plays in Chattooga County, you're automatically grandfathered in. And then beyond that, because we're new in the Walker County market, we've got the Getting Ahead program, where pretty much anyone that walks through our doors, we're going to find a way to get you in that membership role and get you signed up. So we're able to kind of leverage that. If you don't work for one of the employers that are on our website, you can come in, talk to me or one of the ladies that work there in the branch, and they can get you in that Getting Ahead program, get you signed up, even if you don't work for one of our select employer groups. So.
That's amazing. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to look into the camera. I'm going to look very closely, and I'm going to say to all of you that are watching today, you don't have any excuse for not becoming a Peach State member. There's more than one opportunity for you to do that, so that you can truly rest in the fact of knowing that you are partnered with the right folks. You've got the right realtor in Cassie. You've got the right attorney in Karen. You've got the right mortgage guy in Jim Dymick. And most of all, you've got Elijah. You've got Elijah there championing you and making sure that you can get everything you need so that you and your family can afford life. Guys, is there anything, guys and ladies, is there anything we'd like to say in parting?
Thank you for attending. I mean, I hope everybody takes this to heart and reaches out to Elijah and Peach State.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Shadante. And Elijah, thank you, sir, for allowing me to share the Zoom room with you. I appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you, Deidre.
Thank you.